Hello, welcome along to episode 8 of the Tasting Hour. I'm Jason.
And I'm Gary.
This month we're talking Tor Imports. That's who we're having our chat with. I think Scott was a very interesting chat. I think you'd have to agree with that. So we're smoking their cigars to start with. Mm-hmm. What are we smoking, Gary?
We're smoking a couple of Toros by the size of them, Claros. So it's the milder of the London Sheraton brand, which was brought into the country May of last year.
Yep.
To great applause and actually a very functional cigar, both in their Claro version, Colorado, which is the medium wrapper, and their Maduro as well.
I think my personal favourite out of the three is the Maduro, but then, as most people know, I tend to go for that stronger size cigar. It's interesting as well, this also won the Newcomer of the Year award last year for cigars. So they've literally hit the ground running with this.
I think that was always their intention. I remember Scott being of that upbeat side of what they were trying to achieve to get the date and then get it out ready beforehand. And they certainly had a very successful show because obviously last May the Blackened were coming at the same time. Yes. So they were coming full toss at the whole retail market.
Indeed. In fact, I'm very pleased that the Blackened came because everybody knows my views on that cigar. Today I'm obviously going for my usual, I'm going for a V-cut. Gary is going for a straight cut.
I'm going for it, yep. Because there's going to be a little 101 later in the program, so we're deliberately having two different cuts.
Yeah, so I did the Cigar 101 that I've been meaning to do for a while on different cuts for cigars, so there's that to look forward to. So I'm going to cut this. Gary's just done his.
I'm just going to take another little sliver off.
It says here.
Yeah, that's better.
That's what I like about the safety cutter like that. You can take a couple of slivers. You don't, if it isn't right the first time you do it, you can take another little bit off just to get it to where you want it under that cap.
Well, that's one of the features for anybody who's ever come to my shop that we always explain to people with the open guillotine cutters is that that's providing a flat surface, so you can't take too much off. Because some people don't realise, because the cigar's got its binder going up in a spiral to the top and everything's kept in place by the cap, they don't realise that if you cut through the cap, you've just made the whole thing unsmokable. Unless you cut it up and put it in a pipe, and that would
that's a whole different.
That's a whole different.
That's a whole different experience.
It's a whole different experience. Even as a pipe smoker, no, I'd stick to the cigar experience. I have my pipes for my pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
And that's the way to it, because there are certain ones, even with a loose guillotine, some of the torpedoes, where once you've got the experience of dealing with a wrapper at the outside of the cap, should I say, you know whereabouts you're going to snip.
Yeah.
You then take the cigar to see if it's going to draw. If it doesn't draw enough, you then got the nice flat surface to take another sliver off.
Yeah. Unless you choose to do what we call a Cuban cut on a torpedoed cigar. Not something I've done in the 101, but it will be something we'll talk about after you've all watched it, because it's an interesting style of cut. It's not one that a lot of people do, but it does give you a very different smoke. I'm pairing mine with a milkshake, which actually probably won't surprise a lot of people at the moment. I seem to be really enjoying milkshakes with cigars. I think it's the creamy milk sort of texture on your palate helps sort of trap some more of the flavours from the cigar. And also it's sugar. So sugar's always a good thing to have with cigars, especially if you suffer from, shall we say, sugar cravings. When you smoke a cigar, it takes a lot of the sugar out of your bloodstream. So having something put it back in very quickly does help, which is why I always recommend a can of Coke or something with a cigar.
Really? Well, yeah, fine. I was going to say food, digestive bitter gets out food, so any sugar intake on that doesn't apply, particularly if they're chocolate covered, definitely doesn't apply.
This is a very, very light cigar. This is definitely one for a newbie.
It's a very light smoke, but it's one of those things with some of the other cigars, there are one or two things that we talk, obviously, anyway, before a program and after about certain things, where people have to learn how to smoke for 45 minutes an hour, which is what this one will take.
This is definitely this is a 50 minute to about an hour and 10 minute cigar, depending on how much you're chatting. It's definitely one I recommend to a lot of new cigar smokers. In fact, the December episode, we did the interview with the Mead, Warlock Mead.
And that's right, you smoked 2 of these.
We smoked 2 of these then because I knew he hadn't smoked one before. So I wanted to break him in gently, essentially. And he did enjoy that cigar.
I think it's the actual core of the Sheraton is a little bit stronger than the classic Sheraton.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably to its benefit, and that certainly comes through on the Colorado. On the Puro with the Connecticut, the wrapper, which I think is what it is, remember rightly, it's actually a nice soft cigar. It's as soft as the thing, but you've got a 50 ring gauge.
Yeah, it's a bigger ring gauge. The classic Sheraton's much earthier. This is a very light, almost semi-floral. It's not got that earthy, rich note that the classic Sheraton has.
Question of wrapper.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it.
Because the other one is just a light cigar.
Yeah.
With a light wrapper, with a light filler and all the rest.
Initial thoughts? I mean, this is very much, for me, this is your morning coffee cigar. Not this size, I would have the smaller format, the Robusto format, but it's that lighter cigar. For me, that's where it would sit. I couldn't have this, mid-afternoon once I've eaten lunch, or it doesn't quite hit my palate right for that.
It's your light white wine before lunch.
Yeah.
As opposed to the heavier ones that you might consume. I can think of a few other cigars I've got. It's one of the problems with the Robusto side for some beginners is because they don't have the time. So there aren't that many affordable Coronas around.
Yes.
There's a little bit of a shortage from some elements where actually a good Corona at a certain strength would be better, or a pity Corona.
Yes.
This allows a classic person to transfer up, or the Robusto version would. We happen to be smoking Taurus, but the length of smoke. Another one would be a couple of brick houses, the Connecticut from Brick House. You could, if you wanted to upgrade slightly, you've got the Galleria.
I think the Galleria,
the Shavata.
Yeah, I was just say the Galleria.
It's got a little bit more flavour, different country.
Yes.
But it's a good place for a starter if you're wanting to move on. It's not too strong for them to go through. And for an experienced smoker, if it's midday or something like that, you can join in because it's fine. It's got flavour to it.
Yeah, it does have a nice, subtle flavour. I mean, this is my first cigar of the day, and therefore I'm picking a lot more up from it than I would if I'd had a cigar beforehand. It's definitely not a cigar you can have if you've already had a cigar.
No, that's like once you've had the red wine, you can't go backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
In taste.
Yeah, because you'll get the fix, but you'll miss the experience. Right. On that note, I think what we'll do is we'll head over to Scott's interview now. It's definitely an interesting little chat, actually. I didn't realise how long he'd been involved in the industry for before he even took over with Tor.
I didn't know he went back to the year that he mentions in the interview. I knew he had been in the tobacco trade,
yes,
and that effectively means the cigarette companies.
Yeah.
I knew that before I first met him, which was before 2012, because he had worked for them for a few years before that. I met the original owners of Tor when I first took over the shop in 2007. And as you'll find out in the interview, he's done an awful lot of bringing New World cigars in.
Yes.
And although people may challenge him, most of the other work by done at our companies is because of his success in doing what he's done.
It's made them up their game, essentially.
Yeah.
He's literally... There is a reason Tor is probably the second biggest importer of cigars in the UK, behind Hunters.
Yeah, because he's been marketing man on the tobacco side for a number of years and is a highly skilled operator and knows how to move things carefully and progressively.
Yeah.
And that certainly shows in the amount of people from Nicaragua alone that comes in and the range of his portfolio. I mean, how you adjust that over the years will be interesting to see. A lot depends on how the cigar market goes, apart from any other legislation.
Yes.
But as more cigars have become in the last 20 years more available in this country, people's tastes can expand like they can with, have done with wine.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, this very cigar is a very good example of people's taste changing. And on that note, go and enjoy the interview, and we'll see you in about 20 minutes, and we'll discuss what you've heard. See you in a sec.
See you then.
Right, time for the second interview for the Tasting Hour. This time we've got Scott. Scott is from Tor Imports. Thank you for joining us, Scott. Tor has been a big part of the UK cigar industry since '92. You're one of the biggest now in the country, probably second only to Hunters, so you're the biggest in New World, I would say. How do you feel the pressure on that for you guys?
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Jason, for having me. Wow, good question. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that we'd be where we are now, and we're still not where we want to be yet. We're ambitious. We've seen the market change a lot in the last probably 12 to 14 years. I can remember back in the early days, I took over Tor in 2012, but prior to that, I was going out to the PCA as an employee of Tor, effectively. And what I was doing was I was starting to bring in brands like Alec Bradley, like La Aurora, and so on. So what I started to do was bring in one New World cigar brand a year before anybody else would do.
Because you're currently, if memory serves, you got 14 out of the 17?
It's now 15 of the 18.
Okay. Oh, right.
One.
So definitely out.
Yeah.
So
again,
that's a lot.
Yeah. So the pressure we now kind of feel is in the last few years, we've now got more competitors in the New World arena.
Yes.
So at the time there was Hunters and Franco, and there was ourselves, and we were tiny, but we started to, as I say, to bring in one brand at a time, baby steps, and grow year on year, but in a way that was sustainable for the business, but also for the brands, to make sure that we did the brands justice.
Yeah, so you didn't overflood it, and people it basically just sat there because
There's a
there's too
job
much.
to do.
Yeah.
Because the one thing we can never do is overpromise. You know, but the role of the distributor is very straightforward. Is to add value to the manufacturer and to add value to the retailer. And if we get that link correct, the consumer then has a choice of cigars to buy. So it's very simple philosophy we have. And what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years is more competition coming into our corner, which sharpens our tools. And I've got no issue whatsoever with competition. That improves what we're trying to do because we want to stay ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes it a better experience for everybody.
Absolutely.
In that regard, actually, that's another good thing about Tor. You do more training for staff and for smokers in general than pretty much anybody else.
Yeah, and that comes back to, gosh, I started in the tobacco industry, not cigars, in 1984. So this is our 42nd year, which is quite astounding.
That's a feat.
Successfully from 4th of June 1984 with Marlboro cigarettes.
Wow.
And
That's
back in those days, we, believe it or not, did training with retail. Okay? Then I became what we called a sales trainer with Philip Morris.
Yep.
And I would take a sales guy from scratch who would join the company, and I would train them through the process. So training's always been part of my kind of makeup, I guess. And when I took over Tor, we now have 18 staff. In those days, when I took over, we had 7. So I was working in the UK from Devon, going to see retailers all over the UK and Scotland. And we had a young chap in London, who's now 72, still with us. And between Jerry and I, we covered the whole of the UK. So when I was going to say Leeds from Devon, I would stay in a little hotel. And I think, so you eat hotel food?
Yeah.
What am I doing? You know, so I started to think how I could fill my evenings. And we started filling our evenings with training and events. And then when we had the finance, we could introduce like the torture, which we introduced in 2016. What that meant was we could then take UK retailers to the factory.
So they get to see the plantations and literally from seed to leaf to...
You can watch videos, you can read books, you can do all of that. But go to the field, put the little seed, the tiny seed, in a little plant pot, and then see the seed growing in another pot, and see the whole step from seed to smoke. It's a cliche, I know, but to see the whole thing over a week, you leave the tour. Wow.
Yeah.
You know everything.
I mean, that's a lifetime experience, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. And it's also fun as well. We try to make it interesting and fun.
I have to admit, that to me sounds like a perfect holiday, really. You're getting to enjoy something we're all very passionate for, which are our cigars, and you're actually getting to see the literal start to end process of it.
But the thing is, we're doing this with people like Nick Perdomo. So Nick will give up a day and show his crazy machines that he's invented, to sort them with the seeds. Because they genuinely, you sneeze on an ashtray full of seeds, that's a field.
Oh, wow.
You know?
See, we don't ever really put that into perspective, do we? We never think of how it really begins. Something that tiny.
You start with the soil.
Well, yeah.
You know?
There are many countries that could learn from that.
Yeah, and like AJ Fernandez, his fields are, Nick Perdomo's are the same, Oliva. But they'll buy a field. But the field might be a rock formation. So when we go, you'll see bulldozers and farm equipment removing,
clearing it out and getting it ready.
Getting the rocks away. And you'll see them smoothing it out and getting the soil ready. And it'll take him a long, long time before growing tobacco. He may grow something different on it first to make sure that the soil actually delivers what he's looking for. It's amazing. And you see the different colour soil in the different regions of where we go to Nicaragua. It's incredible. You see this kind of cheesecloth, the sun-grown and shade. So fields are open, fields are full.
Yeah, that's it.
And you learn everything. So it's all about, we're big on education too, because we believe that if people know what they're talking about, they're confident.
Yeah.
So when a consumer walks through the store, they can talk about the cigar. And you imagine, there's a guy up in Edinburgh who was with us last year, and he's got all the pictures of him, like AJ Fernandez, Nick Perdomo, Miro from the Lever Factory, Juan Martinez from Hoya de Nicaragua. He's got them all on the wall. And he's like, okay, when I was at the AJ Factory with AJ,
but that's
as a retailer, to talking to a consumer.
That's exactly what you want. As a consumer, you want to be talking to someone with that sort of level of confidence. So you know that when you pick what you want, it's actually what he's talking about, matches what he's told you.
Absolutely. So training for me is important. We have a brand ambassador in our business, and his job is to train staff at hospitality, retail, and do consumer events. And the consumer event could be, let's stand up and talk about, the cigar I'm smoking today at Sheraton. Or it could be an education evening for consumers. So we tailor it to what the retailer wants and how we think, it will help the retailer, help their business. So training is a massive tick in the book for us.
So just changing the subject slightly, in terms of picking new brands for the cigars, you actually, when I met you back in the summer last year, I was thrilled to understand that you're responsible for bringing the M81 into the country.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a very big Metallica fan, and a lot of people know that. So first off, thank you for that one. I do really appreciate that. What made you decide to pick it, and what were your choices for picking it?
We're on the international scene. So our manufacturers are, Nicaragua, Dominican, Mexico, and Honduras. Their biggest market is America. Probably, for most of them, it's probably 90%.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So when you see something on like Half Wheel, and this has been launched, we're like, yeah, and we'll ping off an email, hey, can we get this? And they'll go, not yet.
That sounds about right, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I then go to the PCA trade show in April, and I see everything laid out that they're going to sell to the American market. So I might pick up a nugget and go, I haven't seen that, or I don't know anything about that. So Blackened was an easy one.
Yeah.
Because it's probably the most requested cigar we've had on our website.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
by a long way.
I've been looking for that cigar since it was released. So the fact that you did it was like, that's absolutely brilliant.
But we were pushing, and thankfully Drew Estate released. Drew Estate don't supply every country.
Yes.
They have America and a
very small list
target.
of who else they will supply.
Yeah, it's a very small international markets that they supply. When I took over Tor, we already had a Leva, and we already had Padron.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already had Padron, are the most awarded cigar, I think probably in the world. They now have 5 number ones.
Yeah.
Manos has 4. The next is Fuente and my father with 3. And there's only been 22.
Yeah.
So my Padron, we've got 5 of the 22. Yeah, which is insane.
That is.
And they have never ever been out of the top 10. They've had a cigar in the top 10 of every year, one top 10 cigars since ratings began in 2004.
That is actually leading on to my next question. What's next for Tor? I mean, obviously you've had the M81 that was released, the Sheraton London that you've done, which actually, I have to admit, when it first came out, I was very unsure because I've always been a fan of the original Sheratons. In fact, it's a cigar I recommend to newbies all the time. Very surprised, very pleasantly surprised as well. So it's nice to see something catered to the UK market, the UK palate, and it work.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what is next for Tor?
Well, for Tor, okay, so there's a lot of things happening in the industry with legislation. So we have to make sure we can operate. So step 1 is like, we have a thing called track and trace, which comes in March next year, 27. But we've invested already in all the systems, all the labeling. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of the market, we're ahead of the game, which means all our retailers, all our customers can buy with confidence.
Yes.
So in March next year,
there won't be any interruption.
Don't need to worry about Tor.
Yeah.
Let them worry about our competitors. Okay?
That's always a good thing.
So that's what we've been doing behind the scenes. That's been an expensive operation because it meant we had to expand our humidor. It meant we had to take on another warehouse to make room to expand the humidor. So it's been a massive investment period the last 18 months or so. And then from a range perspective, we've actually been reducing our ranges manufacturers.
Okay.
So that we can give more focus to the companies we work with.
Yeah.
Because we came to realize that the companies we work with are all award-winning cigars and all heritage, they're all family-owned. So we have a very simple checklist. They work with, they have sustainable programs in their business, how they recycle water, how they pay their staff, how they give medical treatment. And we see all of this. So when we do our Tor tours, well, we make a point of going over, as I say, we're taking a group to the Tor Tour 26. Hopefully later this year we may have a second tour, who knows, to a different country. And then one of the guys is going over to that country in 2-3 weeks' time to check it all out.
Yeah.
To make sure that, what we said is going to happen and how we're going to plan it. But yeah, it's important to us that staff are treated well. Over 50% of the staff they're employed by the people we work with are women.
That's
And a lot of it is generational as well. So you'll get the grandmother, you'll get the mother, you'll get the daughter, or the son. It's incredible. And you can tell when you're in the factories, if they're looked after,
yeah,
you can tell.
yeah, you can see it.
Yeah? If there's a fear or if they're nice and relaxed. And so it's,
That actually does it does actually come through in the cigars that you then smoke later on. If it's made with caring attention, then it's going to be a much better smoke than if it's just rushed out and literally shipped.
yeah, I think it was funny because last year we had a girl from London and she made a point to me, she took me to one side in the Padron rolling room actually. She said, look at the rollers. All got a little bit of makeup on, they've got a little bit of lippy on. They look like they've made an effort.
Yeah.
And I've been in rolling rooms where not quite the same. Yeah?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So just little things.
Little things like that.
And believe me, some of the working conditions are incredibly spotless. To my father factory, wow. It's so clean. They're literally cleaning up. There's no
Fragments.
tobacco
Yeah.
lying on the floor. And it's incredible. Then you go to the Oliva, their fermentation room. I can remember my first trip in 2016, going into the fermentation room. That's the most important room in the whole making process. It takes out all the ammonia, all the rubbish. And I remember going into a room and spending 5 minutes. And that was 4 minutes too long. Because you couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Wow. When we go to Oliva, we're in that room now for over an hour.
Oh.
You don't know because they've put in air quality to recycle the air conditioner for the staff, not for the tobacco, for the staff. So the competition between them to keep the quality levels high is why we get good quality cigars. You know, we're sitting outside and we're not getting any canoeing, we're not getting any...
Actually, the construction, I will say, of New World cigars is phenomenal. I mean, at least they have really good quality control.
But it shouldn't even be a comment.
It shouldn't be a
It
comment.
shouldn't even be a comment. You don't buy a car and say, hey, these wheels are working.
Yeah, the wheels are working, but the brakes are a bit dodgy.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what I mean? You shouldn't even, construction should not even be a discussion.
But you know what it's like with the cigar world. There are certain brands, I'll leave it at brands, that have issues and always have had issues, but New Worlds generally don't.
Yeah, and that's because it's competition.
Yes.
It's forcing and driving up the quality.
Okay, so here's a question I ask everybody.
Uh-huh.
Any cigar in history, with anybody in history, who and why and what?
Gosh.
It's a horrible question.
No,
but it's a good one.
Gosh. Okay. Right, I'm going to pick the Oliva Series V Double Robusto.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was launched around about the time I was getting involved in Tor. And years later, it's got one of the most oiliest, brown, shiny wrappers back then, and it has the same today. And that fascinates me. That all these years later, that cigar is, if you put one up from 2009 or 8, whenever it was launched, in 2026, they would look identical. That's another story, because that's the secret of the master blender.
Yes.
Not making new cigars, it's keeping the existing cigars consistent.
That's something whiskey distillers should learn. Because there are certain whiskies, I mean, a favourite one of mine is the, was it Johnny Walker Black? If you have a Johnny Walker Black now, it's a very bulk standard, every day, you get it in any supermarket, 20 quid. It is nothing in comparison to what a 1970s Johnny Walker Black is that Best used to drink. Now that's a totally different kettle of fish, but it shouldn't be. It should still be that same consistency and that same heritage all the way through it, but it doesn't.
So who would have smoked that way? I love football.
Right.
I'm not a Manchester United fan, but I would love to sit with Alex Ferguson, Sir Alex.
I thought you were going to say Fergie then when you said football.
I'd love to sit with him. I was very fortunate that I got to meet Jock Stein.
Yeah.
Before he died, I don't know, 40 years ago now. And that was a big moment. And you got Sir Matt Busby. There's a Scottish trilogy of super managers. If I had the opportunity to sit with all three of them,
right,
and just sit back and let them talk,
just sit there.
I think
and
that
enjoy.
would be, as a Scotsman, that would be incredible.
That's a brilliant answer. And this is one of the things I like about doing this. Everybody's answer is very unique and very personal. And I can understand why you'd want to do that. That's brilliant.
It would be amazing. Yeah, because they were all unique and they were all fantastic. We're all from the same area, but they were all really successful in their own ways with different clubs. And I'm not Celtic or Rangers either.
Just before the comments come in for that one.
My hometown is Arbroath, and that's my Scottish football team. But just those three guys together, sitting around the table.
That would be a good discussion, actually.
Yeah.
With what those achieved in their time, that'd be a very good discussion.
Yeah. And I'd understand them.
Having edited quite a lot of their interviews over the years, I totally understand that comment as well. You have to tune your ear to their accents on that one. One last question then. What was your first cigar?
Oh gosh. Oh.
This is a horrible question because cigars have changed a lot over the years, obviously.
It'd be something from Hunters. I'm going to say a Monte Cristo, I don't know, a number 4 or something like that. I always remember back in the day when you could smoke basically anywhere, we would take customers for lunches to like the Variety. Somebody would come over and do a talk, a comedian, take a box of cigars with me, and
sounds like a really good night, actually.
It was a really, I met some great people, but we'd smoke cigars, and I'd say probably a Monte Cristo number 4, something like that, would have been first. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Scott, thanks very much for joining us on the Tasting Hour podcast.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there you go. That was Scott's interview. I think it's very interesting, wasn't it? I mean, 42 years is a long time.
It's a long time in the industry. I mean, having said that, a lot of the other people have all been doing similar kinds of things, some of them that I've known over the years. I mean, it's only the last sort of 15, well, maybe 20 years, because he was involved, I didn't realise, with Tor already in the Channel Islands before he came across to deal with the mainland. That's when I first met him, which would have been about 2010, 2011, before he actually brought the company
he owned them,
actually owned them.
I think that's also another interesting thing from the interview. Not many companies I know would go, for want of a better way of wording this, go backwards. He's actually reducing some of his range, which is a very brave decision to do, because everybody's always wanting to expand and get bigger and bigger and bigger. But he's reducing it so he can concentrate more on individual brands. I think that's quite A, a brave thing, and B, a very good thing.
Well, I think one of the things that I particularly felt in the last few years that, and you've seen the book that they handed out, it's a thick book, and there's a lot of suppliers in there doing a lot of cigars, and I think and you do 2 or 3 items from each cigar. You don't necessarily do the full range justice.
No.
And I would be interested to see what he meant by that. I would imagine that actually he would probably lessen some of the selections that he does from different people, or it would be useful if he had a wider range. Because there needs to be a few more Coronas around, as well as the ubiquitous Robustos and Toros and other things, and maybe some few half Coronas as well.
I was going to say, actually, the half Coronas I think would be an interesting expansion, especially with our climate. And also, I mean, 25 minutes is a good time for a cigar, but you want something that's going to give you some flavour. So finding that just in one or two out of a range might be difficult. You would need to expand that, I think.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen that with Brightleaf when we did that in the last program, when we did that montage of all the different sort of half Corona, what they call half Coronas, they're more half Robustos in that sense, mini Robustos. But they're very good, and there's a difference between the lighter ones, the Carrillo and Galeria, or the slightly stronger ones from PDR as well, which allows you to either have a quick smoke because that's all you got time for because something else is going to happen, or you've come to the end of the evening, and I often do that, and you don't want to light up another big cigar, but you've got time for something smaller.
Yeah, it's like my classic one was always I went for the D6 because that's a perfect end for the night. Although the PDR probably is my equivalent these days. I would say they're on a par for me personally. So that's a cheaper option than always going for the Cuban. Mentioning Cuban, this is a very nice little touching point. Something else Scott said, how they concentrate much more on terms of how their suppliers do things. Now, what's just happened with Cuba and the oil, with the first time in my memory, the festival has been cancelled.
Yeah, that is amazing because that's a huge event and it costs a lot of money to go there, but it's packed out because the whole world goes there.
Exactly. I mean, I was thinking of going back in 2018. I didn't because work commitments, but even then it was like 8-9 grand if you wanted to go for the festival. By the time you do the festival dinners, the galas, and you go and see a few of the farms, that was then. Now you're talking just over 10 probably.
And probably the rest. I've never looked at the prices when it's been announced or when it goes. In fact, I don't think hunters actually necessarily talk about that so much.
They don't
in the
so much
last
these
3
days.
years. But probably because everybody knows that February, Cuba has its huge festival.
Yeah, it's February and November, isn't it? So it's the main one in February, and Partagas tend to do theirs in November. Hopefully, the November one will go ahead, but who knows?
Who knows? I think with the embargo, politics is having a very heavy hand from just across the water from Cuba. So how, and that was something that Scott did touch on, I think, in the interview, when he's been approached by other people wondering in case the Cubans run out. Well, the answer would be the new world has not got an issue in supply.
No, it hasn't. They can upscale quite easily, I would say. I think the thing that will happen is Cubans are already expensive now, and they've become a lot more expensive. They're just going to triple in price again.
Yeah, but UK has always been the biggest market for the Cubans. We have the biggest range probably in Europe. In fact, we probably go through more of them than the rest of Europe put together, or very close to it. Maybe some countries like
Spain is probably the one that I know that do a lot of Cubans as well. Whereas, as you were about to say, Germany, they do more New Worlds than they do Cubans.
Yeah, they've always had their Brazilian connection, so there's a lot of their cheaper cigars are Brazilian orientated. But most of the others, they have other different items from Honduras and Dominican Republic, names that we don't know of, for example.
Indeed. I mean, Scott's got a good, I would say, good form, because this cigar is one that they launched last year, and it won Newcomer of the Year. So it shows that he actually does know what he's talking about. If he's saying something, it's worth listening to.
Absolutely, and I enjoyed the interview. I've known Scott obviously a long time, and that was he was very relaxed in the thing. This is a man who's got his company to a nice, comfortable position. Yeah. And it certainly shows, and he's employing people to go and do the donkey work.
Well, yeah, and actually, in fairness, again, that comes down to training as well. He emphasized so much on training. And I think that's something that hopefully we will not train you guys, but we're hopefully informing you guys enough that you're taking something away from it, because we've got it from people like Scott who've taught us, essentially.
Yeah. And I think that the London Sheraton range, this Puro Claro that we're smoking, is a very nice light cigar. It's one up from the others. We smoked both the Maduro and the Colorado. Both are nice cigars in their own right. I must admit, we were talking the other week, and I was finding that the half Corona of the Colorado in particular, having tried the Maduro one, I felt was quite a strong little cigar. I have tried the Robusto since then, and I'm thinking this batch is actually not far off. The smaller one is still stronger, makes a nice late evening smoke.
That was an interesting point, though, that he made in that interview. The smaller ones are basically was it half Churchill? So they make the Churchill and just cut them in half, and there you go.
Yeah, which
I can't.
You'd have to try and balance the cigar from both ends into the centre.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to end up with something almost unsmokable before
Otherwise,
the end.
one cigar will be really strong going weak, and then the other one will be going weak to really strong.
But then you can roll like that.
That's true. That's very true.
If you've got the rollers, you just have to pack it slightly differently to what they're used to doing.
Right, I think that's enough on the Scott's little interview. We've got a couple of other things to discuss. We've mentioned Cuba because that was a really important one. We've got St. Patrick's Day coming up, so we've got some cigars to talk about for that in a minute. But first off, let's go to this month's Cigar 101. This month's 101, we're talking about cigar cuts. I've got 3 variations here. We've got the V cuts, we've got a couple of different guillotines. There's a reason I'll show you and talk about that in a minute. And a couple of different punch cuts. There's a couple of variations there as well, which we will talk about. But let's start off straight away with what my personal favourite is, and that is a V cut. So what we do with a V cut is you just hold the cigar straight, put the V cut straight over the top. It will go in as far as it can, and one fluid motion, and you're done. That's the V cut. The reason I like that, I personally think, is it gives you slightly more of a surface area when you're smoking. So it does make it a bit of a faster smoke. The second one we're going to talk about today is probably the most common, which is the guillotine cut, the straight cut. Now, most people have cutters like this. Now, these are good if you're very experienced and you're used to cutting your cigars, because you only want to take the smallest bit of the cap off with it. Now, the reason I have a second cutter here is this is what's called a safety cutter. Now, the reason it's called that is because it has a solid back, which basically means you can't go too far. It will not take off too much of the cap. So what you do, put the cigar in all the way to the end, and just one fluid motion again. And as you can see, that's a really clean cut, and it's well above the edge of the cap, which is there. If you don't think that draws enough, you can always take another sliver off, and you're guaranteed it shouldn't unravel. Now, the third option is what we call a punch cut. Now, there's a couple of ways of doing this. You could do it even something as simple as a matchstick, which is what Winston Churchill used to do to his cigars. He only ever really either picked the cap off or use I believe it was a matchstick, poke a hole in the top, and it was good to go. What you do with this is why I like these lighters. This one in particular has 2 variations of a punch, so 2 different sizes. I'm going to use the bigger one of the 2. This one's a bit more tricky. So you put it onto the top of the cap and you just twist and push in, and it cuts through the cap straight into the body of the cigar, and then you just pull it back out and the cap comes off. So you're basically left with a small little hole. That gives you very restricted airflow, so it probably would make it a longer smoke. So there you go. That is the Cigar 101 on how you cut. So there you go. That's the 101 this month on how to cut cigars. I personally, as most people know, tend to go for the V cut. Gary, until recently, you've always been the straight cut guy.
Yeah.
But you have gone across to being a lot more V cuts.
A lot more V cuts, although for purposes of knowing what the 101 was going to be, you're on a V cut. I purposely did a guillotine cut on this one.
I do think it's a very personal thing how you cut a cigar. I personally do prefer the V, but that's how I was first given a cigar.
I must admit, I've got more into the V. I mean, the early cigars I smoked, if I go back 50 years to the Dutch Skimmel Fenix, were actually always V cut.
Right.
Surprisingly enough.
I do love those old vintage little V cuts as well. They were very flat and very elegant, but they're not deep enough for my personal preferences these days. Let's change the subject slightly. You may have noticed we've got some more cigars. With March the 17th coming up, which is St. Patrick's Day, we thought we'd do a little bit of a review, quick mention for the Old Barber's Pole.
Yeah. So we got 2 here. That's a light one, which is actually from Oscar Valdez, so it's Honduran tobacco. Which
I'm very pleased to say you got this in, because obviously we're both big fans of Oscar. But the construction shape, being a box press, does make that quite interesting. But the Candela leaf...
I don't think it's a strong cigar. The celebratory changes the flavour as it goes through.
It
And I
does.
find that very interesting. As a cigar, and it's actually a nice smoke.
It's one of those cigars, the dry draw gave me a very different impression to what the actual smoke did. I generally thought when I tried it, it was like, uh-oh, don't know if I'm going to like this. But the actual smoke was very enjoyable. It's like, oh, actually, I can get used to that. It seems to be this sort of time of year coming up, because obviously you've got St. Patrick's Day. These cigars get very popular. But that I would highly recommend. But then I'm a big fan of Oscar.
Yeah. The other one is, the Shamrock is what I've chosen. And there is also from Alec Bradley the Filthy Hooligan.
Yep.
This is also based on the Filthy Hooligan, which is normally two-toned, rather like the Oscar is, and is a much stronger cigar. I think I haven't smoked a Barber Pole for a long time from Alec Bradley. I have smoked this one, and this is based on the thing, but it has 3 bands on it, and that camera. You've got 3 different wrappers on it, and this actually softens the cigar down the right. I found it quite a mellow smoke.
Yeah, because that's got the Connecticut leaf on it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And you were showing me that off camera earlier on, and that's right the way up to the top.
And at the end, and I'll turn it to the back, you'll see that both leaves finish at the end, which really softens the smoke down.
Yeah.
It's not as strong as the Barber Pole, I'm quite convinced on that, just by memory on what the black market was like.
The black market one, I have to admit, was my first ever experience having a Barber's Pole, and I did not enjoy it, which is why I was quite dubious with this one. I'm very pleasantly surprised.
That's got a different core to it. Black market is a strong cigar in its own right, and it's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
Which doesn't apply to us, of course.
Not anymore.
But it's a nice cigar. People who are on medium cigars, light cigars, you can smoke and say you smoked a Filthy Hooligan Shamrock.
And actually, this time of year, that's a perfect cigar. If you're going out with your friends on a Saturday night, Friday night, take that cigar with you. It'd be a brilliant night's entertainment. Now, the honourable mention
is Nicaraguan, but from Rocky Patel, from his Nicaraguan factory. The Emerald's an interesting cigar. I've smoked 1 or 2. It's not a heavy cigar.
No.
It has a slightly different taste. I know you weren't impressed by it.
That's not one I like, I'm afraid.
I think it's something to do with the green colour. It's what Brightleaf put out for St. Patrick's. I felt a slight mint, pepperminty back flavour.
And that does not belong in a cigar. I think that's the
makes
problem.
it quite strange.
Yeah.
It's still a nice smoke, as you would expect from a Rocky Patel.
Yeah.
But it is different, and those who want to try different things, that's free.
That's 3 good options.
Free you can try in March, and if you like them or not, some of them will be around for a little while. I think this is now going to be on the market full time.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a full time.
Because it broadens their milder palate, and it should be fun.
Yeah, I think so. Right, let's move on to the next thing.
We
wanted to mention this, yes.
Yes, wanted to mention this. The Bellicosa Late Hour has arrived. About a month ago now. They've just come out to me. So we're literally going to go into the last part of this show by actually lighting them up and smoking them.
Yeah, and give you a quick review of what we think about these, because I'm a very, very big fan of this cigar in its larger format.
The Robustas, I came back with a few from Doha last year, and I've still got a couple of Churchills left, I discovered the other day. And we both like the Panatella version of it.
Yeah, the Panatella version. The only thing I would say that I would put up with it would be the Trident lads. The Trident military cigars. Their little petty Panatella. If you like the Late Hour, you're going to love that little cigar. So there you go. There's an honourable mention for the military boys. But yeah, so I've got high hopes for this. But this is definitely, hopefully, not one for the weak of heart, shall we say.
I do know from previous experience, whereas the longer ones, the Robusto Late Hour and the Churchill, all long filler, this one will have short filler, but which is probably wise because you need to balance it quite easily as a cigar.
That's actually something we're going to do as a 101, I think. Difference between long filler and short filler. Because I think a lot of us don't understand that. When they say what long filler is and what short filler is, people think, well, it's a cigar. What is it? It's literally the volume of leaf they put in, whether it's just fragments or
Short
full
filler is
leaf.
going to be more of the larger fragments that you're going to get off your leaf while you're cutting it down to make the longer cigar.
So all those bits that you see left over from everybody making cigars and the factories out in Nicaragua and stuff, that becomes short filler in their other cigars. So nothing goes to waste.
First impression is that it's slightly lighter than the Robusto. It's got a strength of taste.
It's definitely got the strength there,
Definitely got the strength.
but it doesn't. Yeah, it is lighter. It doesn't have the body. So it's got the. Yeah, that's an interesting.
It is there. Whether that's, we're used to smoking the Robustos,
Yeah.
which is a strong cigar, full stop.
So we're literally. Oh, there we go. It's definitely a lighter version, but then that's not a bad thing.
No, because it's going to be the shorter smoke. So again, but the shorter smoke, 20 minutes or so.
It would work as your morning coffee smoke. Mm-hmm. Definitely, I can see that working. Oh, that's going to get expensive. On that note, being expensive, is it the traditional Davidoff pricing?
It's still at the UK. Well, no,
Right.
because the Bellicosa and the Panatella never were. The history of the original Winston Churchill range was that going back some 12 years, was that the UK market needed something at a lower price. So the UK negotiated with Davidoff not to do the Bellicosa and the Panatellas at the normal rate that Davidoff do employ, which they do in the Robusto and the Churchill. So the Robusto, for example, at the Late Hour is a £50 cigar.
Yeah.
If you put the Davidoff range in, this would be over £20.
Right.
And their reckoning was, and there's, I understand being the odd discussion, but the size and the pricing meant that the original Winston Churchills really took off. And they've heard they say, yes, you can move it, but the sales value that we have, if you put the price up, you will hack it to death.
Yeah,
quite rapidly.
people will just stop doing it.
They'll stop doing it.
There's enough other cigars out there on the market, especially now, that you would go with, well, actually, that's too expensive for me. That's now how it become the occasional treat, as opposed to my go-to. It's like me and Cubans at the moment. Cubans have become my treat, whereas New Worlds have become my sort of go-tos.
Yeah, and that's notwithstanding some of the Cubans, although they've got the flavour running through, they don't have the power that they used to have. And I think that was a good decision that the UK people made quite a few years ago was, use this at a certain level, and it becomes the introduction for new smokers into what Davidoff is about.
Yeah, and then if they want to start spending a bit more money, they know what they're getting before they even start.
Yeah, which was a point that Michael in the first episode was talking about.
Yeah.
They are refined. They're putting themselves out as manufacturers of exquisite cigars, and so you end up with sort of, we talk about the Cuban prices, but that sort of pricing area.
Yeah.
And then you can decide, generally whether you want to smoke at that price or not. The rest of the New World, of course, is not coming out at those prices.
No.
and their quality control is well on the way up, as we've mentioned in 2 or 3 programs alone.
I will say, though, just to counteract that slightly, the last 6 months, I've had more issues with New World cigars than I've ever had before. But I think it's because they're now trying to increase their market share. Their volume is going up exponentially. So keeping that quality control is where they're joining that fine balance, getting the quality control right and keeping the market filled.
Yeah, I think some of that's left over from COVID, where everybody's production was down, but volumes were up. And they're still trying to catch up. I think some of them, I think Oscar is an example of that, where certainly 1 or 2 leases that have come out recently there's a few that wouldn't have been there beforehand, but he has changed factory
Yes.
to a larger one because he needs to
Because he needs
up
to
his
increase the
height.
volume.
And there will be a few little inconsistencies to some of that.
Well, it's like anything, isn't it? New rollers coming in, learning the recipe, learning how to produce it. There's always going to be a couple of teething problems. What would you pair with this? Because this is very much as you were saying, a short cigar. What would you pair with it?
It would need to be a stronger drink, like most strong cigars, but not as strong as you would need if you had a full Robusto Late Hour, for example.
So
There you could get away with your nice sweet Blendenakis as a contrasting taste. Here, even the 12-year-old probably would just about work, but quite a few of the more medium
okay.
flavoured whiskies would probably work.
Yeah, I mean,
And there's a lot out there.
I probably wouldn't pair it with beer because I don't think that would work. Maybe a strong red wine would.
Yep. It actually would make a nice after dinner smoke where most people traditionally would be on a number 4 Monte Cristo or something like that. And in the old days when you could smoke after dinner at a venue.
They are long gone, unfortunately.
Those days have long gone. Yes, actually, but nearly at 20 years since that band came in. This would perk up nicely with that because you've got through the speeches and all the rest, and you've had your cigar, and it's still a nice quality cigar.
I have to admit,
Davidoff.
it is. I think personally, it is one I would keep in the humidor. Just when you wanted that quick hit, but you want something that's nice and strong, a quick hit.
It's coming in a bit more as I've smoked it through.
Yeah.
You're picking up the taste. It's not. I think the main Robusto is still a little bit stronger.
Oh yeah, it's almost actually you could go to the Robusto after this, and you wouldn't. It would pick up. I think it would continue. So this builds in. I'm hoping this will build into the Robusto by the time we get to the end of it.
There we have the short leaf version of the Davidoff Late Hour, and it's smoking nice. On other matters, which will come later on as we go through, I'm off on a short journey of 8 days into Europe.
Yeah, somebody's getting to go on a jolly.
Again. 2 reasons for this. I'm going to Milan, then up to Lake Como, and I would hopefully be able to go and see the Camametto factory, which is family run.
Yeah.
And if I can't, then I'll hopefully be able to go. I'll fly back and do another visit another time.
That's fair enough. And for
Because
those of you who don't know who that is, they're pipe makers.
pipe makers,
Yeah. Very
family,
famous.
very
pipe
famous
makers.
pipe makers. Their pipes are not cheap. Invariably, you'll spend about £300 or £400 to get one without.
And that's the entry level, really.
And that's very much the interview. But their attention to detail is craftsmanship. I certainly looked at the history, and it goes back 3 generations as far as the name is concerned. And it's certainly run by father, mother, and what is then the son or grandson of the original starter of Camametto. And anyway, Lake Como should be an interesting visit. There's a couple of shops so I might be able to go and visit. After that, I'm taking a train round to Munich, purely because of Germany is big on cigars, and I certainly got 2 shops I like to go to. And if I'm lucky, I'll do a little bit of filming in there, maybe interview 1 or 2 shop owners, because there are places in Europe where there's some very fine shops to go and visit. Some are quite small, but they all have different cigars to what we have.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? I think you'll be able to experience cigars that we don't get given, doesn't even get offered to the UK market, let alone
Correct.
heard about. So I think that will be an interesting little chat.
And I think also how the Germans view cigar smoking and various bits and pieces, what makes it tick for them, I think that would be quite interesting. And if I can do the same with Italy, although Italy, tobacco-wise, is very controlled.
Yes.
So I might not be successful there, or I might get pointers of where I should have gone to, which might mean visiting somewhere in Milan, who knows. But I think Germany will be interesting because I know they like their cigars.
Yes, they do, very much so.
And we'll see what I get.
Fair enough. We have got obviously interviews coming up. There's a couple of interviews subjects that I want to sort of do. We've started off the year doing mental health, which I thought was an important one. There's a couple of other mental health interviews that I've got lined up that I want to do that we'll discuss in future episodes. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good year. 2 other things while I think about it. The podcast is now also available on Apple Podcasts, so the whole back catalogue is there. So you can go and check us out on Apple as well as Spotify and YouTube. Please go and subscribe, all the usual stuff, comments, everything else. It does help. If there's anything you want us to discuss, because obviously we're we get quite blinkered because we already know a lot of the stuff that you guys don't necessarily know. So if there's anything you want us to discuss and actually to give you pointers or anything else like that, don't hesitate, drop a comment, let us know. I think with that,
Almost that. Just to remind people that the Summer Cigar Festival that we went to, and one or two of you did as well, is on the 1st of August of this year, in the same location as last year in High Wycombe. I believe there's some tickets now available, but I haven't seen a cast list of suppliers yet.
No,
so I'd rather like to see that.
I want to know who's going. Let's face it, we're going. We're going. But I would like to know who's going. It'd be interesting to see if Rocky would go again. I'm not sure he would go 2 years in a row.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah.
See who they've
Hopefully, personally, I would like Oscar to go.
Well, they forgot to invite him in time last year, so hopefully they've
corrected
corrected that very quickly afterwards.
So that will be good. I think that's pretty much everything we need to cover for this episode. We shall catch you on the next one.
Yeah, see you then. Bye now.